Imagine a man who's already in his 60s. He opens his eyes but doesn't feel rested. His body is heavy, his lower back aches, his belly seems to have grown even more noticeable overnight, and his first thought isn't, "What a great day." It's, "Where's my phone and where's the coffee?" He hasn't even gotten up yet, and he's already tired. And the most unpleasant part is that many people consider this normal. Age, what can you do? After 60, you don't have the same energy. After 60, the belly grows on its own. After 60, muscles fade, sleep gets worse, and your mood swings for no reason. But let's be honest, everyone knows at least one man who at that same age looks different. He moves more easily. His eyes are clear. He doesn't fall apart after getting out of bed. He doesn't start his day complaining about his blood pressure, his back, and the weather. And it's not always genetics, not always expensive supplements, not always because he spends 2 hours a day at the gym. Often, the difference starts much earlier, in the first few minutes after waking up. Because morning for a man past 60 is not just the beginning of a day. It's the moment when the body decides what mode it will operate in for the rest of the day. The mode of recovery, strength, and a clear head, or the mode of anxiety, blood sugar spikes, sluggishness, and a constant urge to eat something.
And this is where most people lose before breakfast. They wake up and immediately grab their phone. News, messages, bills, other people's problems, other people's opinions. The brain hasn't even properly switched on yet, and it's already being handed a full inbox of irritants. Then coffee on an empty stomach, then a sweet bun, bread, cereal, juice, or cookies, because you have to eat something. And by 10 in the morning, a person isn't energized, but irritated, hungry, and sleepy. He thinks old age has arrived, but in reality, he's simply starting his body every morning like an old engine in winter, without preparation, abruptly, under strain, and with the wrong fuel. To understand what needs to change, you first need to understand one thing. Cortisol is not the enemy in itself. It's often called the stress hormone, which makes it seem like it's always bad. But that's not the case. In the morning, cortisol is necessary. It helps you wake up, raise blood pressure to a functional level, and signal to the brain that the night is over and the body needs to get moving. The problem doesn't start when cortisol rises in the morning. The problem starts when a person does everything possible to turn that morning surge into prolonged anxiety lasting several hours.
Here's a simple example. You've just woken up. Your body is already in its startup phase, and now you immediately check the news, where everything is on fire, rising in price, and falling apart. Then you open your messenger, where someone is demanding something. Then you drink coffee, even though your body is still trying to switch on its own alertness. Then you throw fast carbohydrates in. In response, your blood sugar shoots up sharply, then drops just as sharply. And instead of calm, steady energy, you're left with shakiness, hunger, irritability, and the feeling that your strength has somehow drained away. After 60, this pattern hits harder because the body no longer forgives chaos as easily as it did at 25. Muscles recover more slowly. Sleep more often becomes shallow. Sensitivity to blood sugar spikes can worsen. And the loss of muscle mass with age is not a scare story. It's a normal biological process, unless something is done to counter it. But there is good news in this. If morning can break your condition, then morning can also rebuild it.
You don't need to start with heroics. You don't need to run a marathon at 5 in the morning. You don't need to buy 20 jars with labels in English. The first changes look much simpler. Water, light, gentle movement, the right food, and a little discipline to stop giving your morning away to your phone, coffee, and sugar. The first element,
water, and waking the body up. After sleep, the body goes without fluids for several hours. Even if you don't feel particularly thirsty, the body still wakes up in less than ideal condition. The blood becomes slightly thicker, the mucous membranes drier, the head can feel heavier, and the heart works under more strain than it needs to. In older people, the sense of thirst is sometimes less pronounced, so a person can be dehydrated without even realizing it. That's why the first action in the morning should be boring, and that's precisely why it works. A glass of water, preferably not ice cold, plain room temperature. Not coffee, not tea, not juice, just water. You can add a little lemon if your stomach handles it well. You can add a small pinch of salt if there are no restrictions related to blood pressure or kidneys and your doctor hasn't advised limiting salt. But the foundation isn't some clever recipe. The foundation is simply not starting the day in a state of dehydration. And here many people will say, seriously? Water? That's the secret? Yes, because health secrets often look disappointingly simple. They're hard to sell attractively, so they get talked about less. But if a man past 60 starts his morning not with coffee and his phone, but with water, he's already taking the first step toward keeping his body from entering the day running on empty.
After the water, you don't need to immediately drop onto a mat and act like an athlete from a commercial. What's needed is something different. Gently showing the nervous system that the body is alive, mobile, and safe. 2 minutes. Neck slowly to the right and to the left, shoulders in circles, elbows, wrists, hips, knees, ankles. No sudden jerks, no pain, no attempt to prove that you've still got it. This is not a workout. This is a connection check. In the morning, joints need movement, not force, movement. When joints start working, lubrication improves. Muscles receive a signal to activate, and the brain stops perceiving the body as a heavy sack that needs to be dragged somewhere. After 60, this matters especially because a person often ages not just because of age, but because of a decreasing range of motion. Today you didn't turn your neck. Tomorrow you didn't bend over. A month later you started getting up from a chair with effort. A year later, it already seems like that's just how it is. But often this is not a life sentence. It's accumulated movement debt. Water and a gentle joint warm-up take less than 5 minutes, but they change the very tone of the morning. Instead of a jarring start, you get a calm, gradual switch on. The body seems to receive a message. We're not panicking. We're starting up. And this is where the second element begins. Because you can hydrate the body and loosen the joints, but if the brain is still in night mode, the energy will still feel foggy. The second element, light. The human body doesn't live only by the clock on your phone. Inside, there is its own clock. It responds to sleep, food, movement, and especially to light. Morning light tells the brain that the night is over. It helps synchronize the rhythms of alertness and sleep, influences melatonin production in the evening, and determines how steady a person will feel throughout the day. And there is a big difference between turned on the kitchen light and went outside. Indoor light is usually much weaker than daylight. Even on an overcast day, there is often more light outside than in a room. That's why a man who wakes up, closes the curtains, turns on the TV, and sits in semi-darkness may be prolonging his own sleepiness. A simple protocol. Go out to natural light in the morning. Don't stare at the sun. No need to be a hero. Just step out onto the balcony, into the yard, to a window, and ideally outside. A few minutes. If it's cloudy, go out anyway. If it's cold, get dressed and step out briefly. No romance is needed here. What's needed is regularity.
Morning light works like a command to the brain. The day has begun. And the clearer that command in the morning, the easier it is for the body to understand in the evening that the day is over. Many men past 60 complain. I sleep badly at night. I wake up feeling wrecked. But in the morning, they sit in the dark. During the day, they rarely go outside. And in the evening, they stare at a bright screen almost until bedtime. The body receives contradictory signals. In the morning, it's dark. In the evening, it's bright. And then the person wonders why his sleep has become strange. Morning light is not magic. It's rhythm calibration.
And if you just thought, all right, I get the water, I get the light, but where's the energy? This is where the next tool comes in. It needs to be used carefully, especially if there are issues with the heart, blood pressure, or circulation. But the principle itself is very valuable. A brief cold at the end of your shower. Not a 5-minute ice torture, not a competition with cold water swimmers, not an attempt to prove to your family that you're made of steel. 20 to 30 seconds of cool water at the end of a regular shower is enough. For some people, simply slightly less warm water will be sufficient at first. Why bother? A brief cold is a small, controlled stress. The key word is controlled, not the chaos of phones, news, and anxiety. Just a short signal to the body. Pull yourself together. After that signal, many people feel clarity, alertness, and a more focused state. But you can't be careless about this. If there are serious cardiovascular conditions, unstable blood pressure, arrhythmias, episodes of fainting, or circulatory problems, cold showers need to be discussed with a doctor. Health is not a challenge. The goal is not to impress the internet. The goal is to live better. Water, movement, light, and a careful temperature stimulus can already make a significant difference to your morning. But there is a third element where most men past 60 fail every single day. That's breakfast. And here comes an uncomfortable truth. What many people call breakfast actually looks more like a quick way to steal energy from yourself.
White bread with jam, sweet porridge, cookies, cereal, juice, a pastry, tea with sugar. All of this gives a brief feeling of pleasure, and then the come-down often follows. First, the blood sugar rises. Then it falls, and the person wants to eat again. He becomes sluggish and irritable, reaches for yet another snack, and thinks he simply has weak willpower. But it's not just about willpower. It's about the composition of that first meal. After 60, muscles become more demanding. A random piece of cheese and 2 spoonfuls of porridge are no longer enough for them to maintain mass properly. With age, the body responds less effectively to small doses of protein. This is called anabolic resistance. Put simply, muscles need a clearer and stronger signal to be maintained rather than broken down. And that signal is provided by protein. Protein isn't just for bodybuilders in the gym. For a man past 60, it's the building material for muscles, ligaments, the immune system, and normal recovery. If the first meal of the day contains almost no protein, the body receives a weak signal. It's as if it hears, no building materials have been delivered. We're working with what's left. That's why a good breakfast at this age should start not with the question, what can I nibble with my tea? But with the question, where's the proper protein here? Eggs, cottage cheese, unsweetened Greek yogurt, fish, lean meat, poultry, legumes if they are well tolerated. There's no need to eat the same thing every day. The point isn't monotony. It's the principle. Nutrition for the muscles first. Everything else after. And there's no need to go to extremes here. Nobody is saying that carbohydrates are poison. Carbohydrates are necessary. But morning, especially for a person with excess weight around the belly, poor sleep, and energy swings,
is not the best time for a plate of sugar disguised as a light breakfast. If you want porridge, let there be protein alongside it. If you want bread, don't let it be the only food. If you want fruit, don't let it replace a proper breakfast. There is one more important point. Not everyone needs to eat within the first 5 minutes of waking up. If a person has no medical reason to eat immediately, such as medication schedules, diabetes, or a doctor's recommendation, many people are better served by giving the body a little time. Wake up, drink water, move around, get some light, and then eat calmly afterward. There's no need to turn this into a fast. The point isn't to torment yourself. The point is not to load food into a body that hasn't properly come out of night mode yet. For many people, a workable option is breakfast 60 to 90 minutes after waking. But if a doctor has prescribed a different schedule, there's no need to argue with the doctor. A sensible approach always beats internet heroics. Now, let's put the whole system together. The first minutes after waking, without the phone. This is difficult because the phone has become the modern anxiety button. It lies nearby, glowing, calling out, promising something important. But there is almost never anything there that couldn't wait 20 minutes. What you can easily find there, however, is something that will ruin your mood instantly. Picture this. You haven't even gotten out of bed yet, and you've already read an unpleasant piece of news, witnessed an argument, received a request, seen someone else's success, compared yourself to someone, and been reminded of your own problems. The day hasn't started yet, and your brain is already on the defensive.
So the rule is simple. The first 30 minutes without a screen. Not because the phone is evil, but because in the morning, attention is too valuable. Give it to your phone, and the phone sets the tone. Keep it for yourself, and you set the tone. And this is a very mature form of strength. Not shouting, not proving a point, not arguing. Simply not letting a random stream of information govern your state of mind from the very first minute. After waking, water, then gentle movement, then light. Then the usual routine, shower, washing up, a calm preparation for the day. If it suits your health, a brief cool finish to the shower. No need to make a heroic act of it. A small, controlled discomfort is enough. The kind that leaves you feeling not panic, but composure. Coffee is better delayed, not forever. No need to be dramatic about it. Coffee itself is not the enemy. The problem is that many people use it as a crutch before the body has even switched on by itself. They wake up and immediately pour a stimulant into themselves. A couple of hours later, the alertness crashes and they need a second cup, then a third. Then sleep is worse in the evening, and in the morning it again feels like life is impossible without coffee. A more sensible approach is to first let the body wake up naturally. Water, light, movement, a calm start. And then have coffee later, once the first wave of morning activation has already passed. For many people, this is roughly an hour to an hour and a half after waking. And again, no fanaticism. If coffee is contraindicated or adopted.
The fix is simple. The phone should not be the first thing you meet in the morning. Let the first thing be your body, your breath, water, light, movement. This sounds too calm and uneventful, but it works far better than starting the day with a digital brawl. The second mistake, coffee instead of recovery. Coffee can be a pleasant part of the morning, but when it becomes the first thing you reach for every time you wake up, it's worth pausing to think. Perhaps the problem isn't that you need coffee. It's that your sleep, light exposure, movement, and nutrition have been poorly calibrated for a long time. Coffee doesn't have to disappear. It simply needs to be put in its proper place. It doesn't launch the day. It complements the day. The third mistake, a sweet breakfast that pretends to be a proper meal. The most dangerous version is when a person thinks he's eating lightly and sensibly. Cereal, juice, toast, sweetened yogurt, cookies with tea. Nothing heavy, it seems. But in practice, this can be a blow to blood sugar and appetite. A couple of hours later, he's hungry again. His hand reaches for a snack, and his belly gradually grows. The fix: breakfast should provide satiety and building materials. Protein plus healthy fats, with carbohydrates adjusted according to circumstance, quality, and tolerance. Eggs with vegetables. Unsweetened cottage cheese with berries. Fish with vegetables. Unsweetened Greek yogurt with nuts. Meat or poultry with grains. Simple food that doesn't need an advertising slogan to explain it.
If you're watching this and thinking, well, fine, but I've been living differently for many years, that's not a problem. The body doesn't require a perfect past. It responds to a repeated present. You don't have to become a different person in a single day. But tomorrow morning, you can remove one unnecessary irritant and add one right action. Don't touch the phone for the first 30 minutes. Drink water. Do 2 minutes of gentle movement. Go out to the light. Don't start the day with sugar. That alone is enough to feel that morning can be different. And here, it's important to understand the main point. After 60, strength is not only about muscles. Strength is the ability to manage simple things, not letting habits drag you along by the collar, not starting the day on autopilot, not confusing the fatigue that comes from a poor routine with inevitable old age. Look at the men who appear energetic as they age. Usually, they're not doing anything extraordinary. They simply repeat the basic things that everyone else considers too simple. They sleep more mindfully. They move more often. They eat more consciously. They don't start the morning with junk for the brain. They don't feed the body sugar when it needs protein. This only sounds boring in words. In practice, it's precisely these things that restore the feeling of control.
Morning sets the trajectory. Not fate, not magic, not 100% guarantee. Just the trajectory. If every morning begins with chaos, the day will come together through resistance. If every morning begins with water, movement, light, and proper nutrition, the body gradually receives a different signal. The signal is this: we are not falling apart. We are taking care of ourselves. We are not fighting age with hysteria. We are working with it intelligently. And if you need a simple plan for tomorrow, it looks like this. You wake up, you don't touch the phone, you drink a glass of water. For 2 minutes, you gently warm up your joints. You step out into daylight, even if just briefly. You calmly go about your morning routine. Coffee comes later, not as a substitute for a proper start. The first meal contains protein, not a sugar assault. That's it. No mystery. But that's precisely why it's difficult. Simple things don't deliver instant gratification, but they deliver results when repeated.
If you'd like the channel to put out a similar breakdown of evening habits after 60, what to do before bed so you don't wake up feeling wrecked in the morning, leave a like. That's how I'll know the topic is needed. And if you have your own morning habit that genuinely helps you stay in shape, write it in the comments. Sometimes one honest personal experience is more valuable than 10 polished theories. But don't start with a comment. Start with tomorrow morning. Because a man past 60 has 2 options. The first, explaining his weakness to himself every morning as the work of age. The second, checking how much of that weakness is actually created by habits. Age cannot be canceled, but you can stop helping it do its work faster. Tomorrow morning, don't start like a man who was caught off guard by the day. Start like a man who switches on his own body, his own mind, and his own energy. Water, movement, light, protein, calm, order.
And after a few weeks, you may notice a strange thing. The day hasn't gotten easier. The world hasn't gotten calmer. Age hasn't disappeared. But you've started entering the morning differently. And when the morning changes, gradually the whole day changes too.